So when you're customizing or engineering products, whether it be for drawing purposes or getting them ready to send out to production, you're going to want to be as efficient as possible. And luckily, Microvellum has tools inside of it that help you do that. One of them is called the Microvellum Clipboard. So in this next video, I'm going to show you how to use that clipboard where we can copy things from a product and then have it to use later on down the road. So let's get into this next video and I'll show you how we can do that. Now I'm going to be working with this tall oven cabinet again. This is from our new kitchen project. So this probably looks familiar from another video where we added a couple of machining operations. This one was just a circular cutout that we did through 2D part editor. The other modification actually wasn't a machining operation. It was just making that drawer box fit for a water line that's going to be behind this cabinet. Starting off, let's open up our properties. Now this is one of the different cabinets inside of our library. You'll notice here on our product list, we only have a couple of parts because the rest of them are sub-assemblies. So we had our upper and our lower, those are the carcass sub-assemblies. And then we had some modified sub-assemblies we already worked on. Okay, so to get to my back, I'm going to right click in here, show my properties of this carcass. There's our base back. Now selecting machine tokens. And I can right click in the space and we're going to add a new machine token. So once we add it, then I'll show you how we can work with our clipboard by copying it and then using it later on down the road. Scrolling down here, finding our four-sided cutout. We're going to leave most of these default values alone. For more on the X and Y origins, be sure to check out our other videos on base points and machine points, and that'll help you out determine where we need this cutout on this cabinet back. For now, we'll just keep it simple, just trying to get this machine token in here so we can copy it back to our clipboard. Now in the Y, we are going to change this so we can make sure we're getting some type of square cutout on our part. Route depth, I'm going to change that to the thickness of the material, which is just 1/4 of an inch. And these are just hard-coded, not really the recommended way to do machine tokens, but again, this is more about the clipboard. And X, we can leave that alone. And Y, we're going to make this 6 inches. So we're just redrawing this to see what kind of cutout we're getting. Okay, so there's our cutout in the back of our cabinet. That gives us something to work with there. Let's go back into part properties. Now that we have this cutout 5 machine token, we're going to right click on it and we're going to copy this token to the clipboard. Now from here, I can right click and add a new category, or you can just paste this new token outside of these categories, living on its own. Now just make sure when you're naming this token, if you want to name it something different than just cutout 5, that you include the text within these brackets. And make sure there's no spaces from the end of the machine token name to the start of that bracket. So we'll just call this one RJ New, just to have something in there. And now we have this new token ready to paste from our clipboard. Right click again. Now adding token from the clipboard, we'll put it right to the bottom of this list. Insert obviously puts it above the one selected. Paste is going to overwrite the one that you have selected. So I wouldn't recommend ever doing that one. I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to, but I always like to add token from the clipboard. There you can see we have our new cutout token. It obviously has the same parameters, so if we wanted to change the location, change that to 2, and end X, we'll change that to 6. Now let's save, close, and redraw again, and we'll have our second cutout. Well, that's how you can use the clipboard through part properties. Now the other way is through edit design data. So we'll go into our same product. Now with edit design data, I can select directly onto that carcass subassembly and it takes me to my cut parts. There's my base back. And scrolling over to the right, we find our machine tokens. There's our first cutout and there's the second cutout. You also have the ability to copy the tokens from here. So right clicking on it, Microvellum Clipboard, and we can add the token to the clipboard from here. You also can do the same thing in an empty space, paste that token from the clipboard. So that's one way that you can use the Microvellum Clipboard. Now another way, a little bit different, a little bit more in depth, but pretty cool just to see the power and flexibility of Toolbox. So let's do it. Now I'm working in the same project, also in the same room. This time we're going to go into the product list and just selecting on the room that I'm currently working in. There's that one cabinet we had, 204. Everything else in the drawing was isolated, but those are all the products inside of that room. Now I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a new empty product. Now here we want to give ourselves the width, height, and depth of the cabinet. So the overall width, height, and depth doesn't matter too much as long as we have something in there. So those are the prompts within this product that need to have some kind of value so we can help put these parts together. And that's what we're going to do with the Microvellum Clipboard. So currently we just have an empty spreadsheet ready to start adding some parts in, kind of like the old fashioned way, right? Just a bunch of columns and rows. Could start adding our part names with quantity, width, length, material, thickness, all that good stuff. But instead we're going to use the Microvellum Clipboard. So right clicking to access that clipboard, and now paste cut part from clipboard. This is where we can see the power and flexibility of Toolbox and how simple it is to just create a box by using these cut parts from our clipboard. And notice these parts already have prompts inside of them, so they're smart enough to know what size they need to be based off of the product dimensions. And then I'm just going to continue on down and do that to our right side, our bottom, top, vertical, thick back. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and paste the rest of these parts into this product. So those values are all coming in from the depth, the height that we entered. We got some material, edge banding, the origin. So if we were to just go back into the product list, save these changes. Now we can close this and into the product viewer. There's our new empty product. Well, not empty anymore because we added those parts. Right click to draw selected product and place it at a selected point. So there we got ourselves a box. So typical cabinet construction, top and bottom in between the sides. We got our thick back in between the top and bottom. But now one thing that we're missing are some type of screws or dowels or dados, whatever your construction method is. Going back into edit design data of this product. Now we have our left side. We can use the clipboard again to start adding some machine tokens. That's actually not going to be the left side that we're going to want to do. These are going to be coming in from our bottom, top, and thick back. Start off with our bottom. Now scroll over. Let's find our first machine token. There's machine token 1. Paste a token from the clipboard. And let's just add some screw holes. Do the same thing to machine token 2, adding it on the other face. Paste the token from the clipboard. This one will be screw holes 4. Be sure to check out other videos about the machine points and base points to make sure we have these machine tokens correct. So now we can save, close, and redraw. See if we got something going on our bottom. There we go. So now you do the same thing to the top, and with our thick back, the only difference there would be which face you want to apply that machining to. And that's easy once you're familiar with understanding the machine points of these nested parts. But there is a trick that you can do in the meantime by going back into part properties. We're going to add a token from our clipboard again. Let's just select screw holes 3 for now. So currently we have this formula, but one thing I wanted to show you is we can select that machine token and then figure out what edge those holes are going to be applied to. I'm just trying to get this out of the way so we can see this a little bit better. So right click and now select the edge, hit OK. Now one thing to keep in mind is that does overwrite that formula that we had in there. So if that's not a big deal, like in this situation, it's not. So we can continue to do that. So that one looks a little bit better, right? Holes 2. And once I select that vertical thick back again, everything just kind of refreshes and updates. Now notice we don't have the amount of holes that we need if we really wanted to assemble this cabinet. And that's because we stomped on that formula. Now I can just go back in there and just add that new one from the clipboard. So this time I'll make sure that I select the one with the correct face. That's holes 2, that's face 2. Hit paste, and then I'll just right click on that other one, delete it. Now we can save, close, and redraw, and we have the right pattern of holes. So 3 and 4 will be opposite. 1 and 2 will be opposite from each other. So that would be the other way that you can add the rest of those holes to your thick back and complete this cabinet. And to see where these tokens are living inside of the database, you can browse to your factory data inside of your current configuration, and then under this clipboard folder. This is where we have the cut parts clipboard, hardware. You can see the different clipboard worksheets that we have there. Now, obviously, we're getting these name errors because Excel doesn't recognize that conversion formula. There's our new cutout token inside of the clipboard. I almost forgot before I ended this video, I did say that I was going to show you about the user-defined tokens. So going back into our vertical thick back, when you add a new token, this is our standard tokens, right? But if I wanted a user-defined token, I can right-click in here, add a new token, and now I can select my own. So we were working with that 4-sided cutout on the tall cabinet. And then the name you enter here will be like the nickname for this token. So we can just call this test. You don't have to worry about the brackets. Toolbox is going to automatically add that after the cutout token name. And now you can set up your own values. So whatever you want this to be, we'll just keep it simple. This can be a formula, so if you want it to look to a material thickness, you can do that. The idea is that you just have all these settings preset, so when you go back in, add it to your product, you don't need to worry about changing any of these different parameters. Now we have our user-defined token, save, close, and redraw, and there's our cutout. And similar to the items in the clipboard, this user-defined token is always going to be there. So you just don't get it through the clipboard, you go through this way. Be sure to check out some other videos on machine tokens and more ways to increase those efficiencies in your process. Thanks for joining me again in another training session of Microvellum Toolbox.